Welcome to segment 3, Sabbath as response to love. During this segment, I will be sharing with you some things that I've learned recently about Sabbath in the 21st century. And then we're going to practice a couple of different Sabbath practices. The concept of Sabbath originates in the Bible. Honor the Sabbath and keep it holy. It was a commandment given to the Hebrews through their spiritual leader Moses from God. When the Hebrews were wandering in the wilderness, it was given to the people thousands of years ago, along with 9 other commandments or laws to guide their way of living. The 10 Commandments directed how they were to live with God and how they were to live together. But the commandment to observe Sabbath was also for the individual. Practices of Sabbath benefit the individual as well as the family and the community. It brings peace to body, mind, and spirit when it is practiced as a spiritual discipline. It's not just about what not to do, but rather it is about what to do. God knows we need time off the wheel, and sometimes to know we won't make time to stop a priority in our lives. So we were given a law. With many generations practicing Sabbath observance, Jesus then came on the scene and gave us only 2 commandments as he fulfilled the law. We are to love God first with all our heart, all our soul, all our mind and strength. And we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. And these 2 laws sum up the original 10. Observing Sabbath is about loving God and loving others. But as I said, it benefits us as well. Many of us were taught that observing the Sabbath and keeping it holy means going to church. In some traditions, it may also include abstaining from certain activities. Some now teach it refers to breaking from what a person normally does the rest of the week. But I'd like to draw your attention to a book that changed how I look at Sabbath. It's called Sabbath: Finding Rest, Renewal, and Delight in Our Busy Lives by Wayne Mueller. There are many ways of observing Sabbath. It can be practiced in a day, in an hour, or even in a few minutes at a time. With Sabbath intention, any time can be holy. The point is to disengage from what you usually do or how you usually do something. And you seek sacredness in that time. Well, today, as part of this retreat, we're going to make time for a pilgrimage. A pilgrimage is usually a spiritual journey made with holy intention. It is one way we will observe Sabbath today. Our pilgrimage will be on the grounds here at First Christian Church. Sabbath is not just about doing something or abstaining from doing something. It is about intention. Is it your intention to seek sacred presence in what you're doing? Is it about learning to draw near to God in silence? The intention can change an ordinary activity into a Sabbath practice. Music is another Sabbath practice that speaks to many. Music is a language of its own. May the music you are about to hear wash over you. May it clear your mind, fill your heart, nourish your soul as you draw closer to God. Blessings on your Sabbath time. The path is a metaphor for our life, and there are transition points in our life when we go through a cataclysmic change, or we are just growing and developing. Those are transition points, and it may be like transitioning from an open lawn space to approaching a narrow path where you can't really see very far ahead. Sometimes the next path in your life is well marked, and you can tell what direction you need to go. It's not always clearly marked like sometimes we need to discern the next path very carefully and prayerfully. So please join me on this path. Remember, this is an urban setting, and so there are traffic sounds and construction sounds, people noises, and that's okay. Life has a lot of distractions. There are resting stops along the path of our lives. Take advantage of those resting stops. I encourage you to notice what is going on around you with your senses. What can you see? What can you hear? What can you touch? What can you smell? In a forest, it just begs you to use your senses. And we're reminded that God is everywhere. God is in all of this. This is creation. We are part of it, and God's image is proclaimed everywhere. We need to make more time in our lives to get in touch with creation. There was a 14th century theologian and mystic, Meister Eckhart, who in German talked about God as the Grund, the ground of life. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. God is the grounding. He is the foundation of life itself. God is the foundation of each of us. If we think about these trees, some of these trees are immense. Some are younger, and they're slender. Some are almost willowy. They're so new. How deep do their roots go? If the roots are not sunk deep in the ground, they risk being toppled when the wind becomes strong. And so we need to ask ourselves sometimes, how deep do my roots go? How solid is the foundation of my faith? Will my roots uproot if the winds of change blow a little too strong? And I think now during these pandemic times, when we're being bombarded with challenge after challenge after challenge, some days it seems the stresses just keep multiplying. We need to ask ourselves, how deep do my roots go? hear the chipmunks and squirrels running around, birds chirping. It's soothing. But do I make time to just stop and listen in my own backyard? Do I roll down the windows in the car and notice the sounds? Or am I moving too fast? Listening is so important. It's too easy to focus on what's going on in the world today that is all about what people are doing and saying, and it can dominate everything. And usually that is not what nourishes us. Sabbath time is there to nourish us. Body, mind, and spirit. And walking a trail or just sitting outside for Sabbath time is one way to observe Sabbath. It's our intention behind what we're doing that makes all the difference. You can start out and walk this path and not notice a thing. Or you can be intentional about noticing the things around you and let it quiet your mind, quiet your heart. Let it refresh your body. Slow down your pace once in a while. Remember that God is in everything. God is in the ordinary things. We don't have to go to some great cathedral to be in the presence of God. God is in the tiniest of atoms. God is in the universe. God is in us. And we are part of it. In addition to having this short path through the forest behind our church, we also have an outdoor worship area. And if you're local, you are more than welcome to come and make use of the path of this worship space where you can sit in the quiet or walk in the quiet to be renewed. You're welcome to make this part of your Sabbath time. just ran across the trail. Unfortunately, I frightened it away. What a nice treat that was. This downed tree reminds me of how this is the season of autumn and things around us are dying. That is part of what fall is about. And we know things go into dormancy, but in the forest you see signs of death, and then you see signs of new life that are coming forth out of the trees that are broken and dying. The leaves will be turning. They're starting to turn. They will be in the next few weeks. They'll be in various shades of becoming brown and falling, which is beautiful, but it reminds us of death. I mean, we like the forest, have hope of resurrection, of new life from death, that transformation. And the signs are everywhere in the forest. You'll see trees that appear to be sometimes half dead, but way up at the top there'll be some green boughs still, even though some of the lower branches look pretty dead. There's so many spiritual lessons that we can learn from spending time in the forest. Another transition area. There are times in our lives where we've been through a difficult, dark time. And we realize we are entering a time in our life that is brighter. There is hope. There's a future. So we're stepping out of the darkness into a brighter, more open path in our life. That's just part of the transitions that we go through. And I think this demonstrates that so well. Stopping here in these evergreens, I'm reminded by the smell, the richness of the essential oils in the needles of these variety of evergreens that are here. In the sunshine, the smells are much richer. Again, it's noticing with our senses. I'd like to share a quote with you. This is by Chief Seattle. We have not woven the web of life. We are only one thread in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect. Well, we've come full circle. And I know we've spent some time talking about getting in touch with our senses, being more observing, and now I'm going to suggest that at a point we have to step aside from our experiences and our senses and notice what's going on in our heart. The sanctuary of our heart. The church isn't just about a church building. The church is about so much more than that. It is about a sanctuary where we can come come to worship, which symbolizes the sanctuary in our heart, where we connect with God, our Creator. But the church encompasses much more than that. It encompasses things like playgrounds to the community, preschools. It encompasses sponsoring scout troops, sponsoring a food pantry. There are so many ways that we can all reach out in our own community to help in many different ways. And it goes beyond that, ways that we can reach out to our country, to the world. But it begins here in the sanctuary of our heart. And that's why we need Sabbath time, to get in touch with the sanctuary of our heart and to nourish it, to help it grow. I hope you'll make time for Sabbath time where you can connect with nature. Blessings on your Sabbath time.